what's happening to our skies? Those wide expanses of blue, dotted with white cottony clouds. What if we told you that those skies you grew up with are rare now? Have you noticed? Even look at advertising in today's magazines and commercials. The horizons are almost always white. Go outside and look up. The skies you are seeing today are most often composed of a hazy, bland overcast that's created from jet trails that spread throughout the sky like an opaque roof, blocking the sun. There is a word for this. It's called geoengineering.
We have to keep geoengineering on the table. There are a variety of schemes that have been discussed for geoengineering. A classic example is injecting reflecting particles into Earth orbit. The danger, of course, with geoengineering is we don't understand the system well enough to predict its responses in detail, and that means that you will do something that has side effects that are worse than the dimension of the problem you're trying to cure.
The news is filled with talk of climate change, yet no one wants to talk about government programs called geoengineering, SRM, solar radiation management, HARP, or weather modification, whereby planes spray toxic chemicals into our atmosphere for the stated purpose of actually creating climate change. Yes, our government is intentionally creating climate change.
Aerosol geoengineering looks like it is so cheap that the cost is basically not going to be an issue. That means that implementation decisions will be risk-to-risk decisions. The risk of doing it against the risk of not doing it. And it makes the problem of how we govern it fundamentally harder and different and novel. It's an empirical question, how people will actually react to knowledge about this. And by the way, it's not really a moral hazard. It's more like free riding on our grandkids. And by the way, it's not really a moral hazard. It's more like free riding on our grandkids.
Numerous air quality studies, including from CARB, California Air Quality Resource Board, have named submicron-sized particulates as being particularly harmful for human respiration. Through all the discussions today, I have not heard any mention of this fallout, and has this been studied, and also the effects of a highly reactive metal like aluminum on toxifying soils and waters?
The collaborators of mine working on the aerosol scheme are actually folks from Carnegie Mellon who focused on human health impacts. And while we haven't published it, that was the very first thing we did, was do the order of magnitude calculation in level pencil and paper, but with an expert on human health impacts about whether there could be an issue. And for aluminum or other particles, there are a lot of toxicological things that need to get looked at seriously.
Toxicological issues show up in a lot of different ways as far as risk factors. For example, if you want to stay away from food that is pesticide residue on it, you have a choice with regard to the type of food you can eat. However, with regard to the aerosol schemes and the geoengineering that's going in the sky, we have no choice. We all breathe. We breathe every day. We take 16 breaths a minute. And as a result, what's being sprayed, we are inhaling, it's going through our bloodstream, and it's embedding itself in tissues. These type of particles can cause things like Alzheimer's, autism, and cancer.
I researched the subject of geoengineering, which seemed to describe exactly what I was seeing in the skies above, which was solar obscuration. That's the primary goal of SAG, stratospheric aerosol geoengineering, and SRM, solar radiation management. The primary goal of these patents, like stratospheric Wells box seating for reduction of global warming, is a primary patent, and the stated goal is to block the sun. So seeing the first ingredient in that patent is aluminum, I began to do rain tests. The first test was 7 parts per billion, which according to a hydrogeologist was already quite high, given my location, a filtered forested location. It's not near any sort of industry, urban setting, anything. Subsequent tests over the next 5 years escalated as much as 3,450 parts per billion of aluminum in a single rain test.
The ingredients of the patents held by government contractors are composed of solutions made of toxic metals, such as aluminum, barium, strontium, and manganese. High-altitude airplanes inject these solutions into the atmosphere, a process called aerosol spraying. This clandestine activity could be killing us and our planet. You can identify this easily. Just go outside and look up. You will see the trails that these jets spray often span from horizon to horizon. They sometimes appear in an unusual grid pattern or large X. Then if you really pay attention and watch them over a period of a few hours, you will see them spread out across the sky, turning a beautiful blue sky into a milky, hazy white.
Look at this picture of Central Park. Does this look normal to you? I mean, the coloring, the weird purples and greens and blues that are in these stripes. I remember this day, December 6th. I was walking towards the Empire State Building and I saw a plane cutting directly across the building. And I called Steve and I said, Steve, we got to take some pictures today, man. So we went out and we got these photographs, unsuspecting people just going about their daily lives. In the meantime, look up. What do you see? Does that look normal to you? I'm a director of photography by trade. That's what I do. I take pictures. I've been doing this for 20 years plus, and I can tell you what I'm seeing in the skies is different now than it's ever been.
The stated goal of geoengineering is to block the sun, and as a result of getting insufficient light, we are not able to synthesize as much vitamin D as we need. Vitamin D has been shown to prevent things like prostate cancer, breast cancer, and colon cancer. To compensate for the lack of sun, it's definitely possible to supplement your diet with vitamin D. However, the nanoparticles that we're breathing in as a result of the aerosol schemes can potentially cause lung cancer, which, according to the World Health Organization, is the #1 cause of cancer death worldwide.
In my first story for Environment News Service in January 1999, I said that these mysterious contrails were sickening Americans. The illness patterns coincided precisely with so-called heavy spray days, particularly on weekends. People would see this gritting, unusual activity, aerial activity in the sky. They would start to cough. They would get asthma attacks, severe enough to send them to emergency rooms.
Heating the ionosphere, injecting sulfur into the stratosphere, blocking the sun, stopping rainfall, dumping iron oxide into the ocean, bending the jet stream. While these ideas sound insane, they are very real. They are all part of geoengineering and weather modification, and they come with deadly side effects. What is happening to the bees? Have you heard about the massive fish die-offs? What about all the reports of birds dropping dead from the skies? Google these topics and you will see the peril that our ecosystem is in, and the urgent need to take action right now.
Right now, we see 1 in 2 people getting cancer in their lifetime. Already 1 in 8 women get breast cancer. I see those things continue to rise unless we do something about it.
In September of this year, Russia urged the UN to include geoengineering in the climate science report. The UK writes about this topic almost every day in The Guardian, and there are over 100 bills before the Senate today about climate science and weather modification. You no longer live in a world of blue skies and natural weather. The air you breathe, the sun you see, and the rain that falls is now being controlled and manipulated by geoengineering. In October 2013, Monsanto bought Climate Corp for $1 billion. The world's largest corporation known for genetically altering the food we eat is now also in the business of weather and climate science. This is terrifying. Unexplainable weather phenomena, bizarre snowstorms, Hurricane Sandy. It is not unexplainable. It's very explainable if you go online and search these words. Geoengineering, SRM, HARP, chemtrails, Geoengineering Watch, climate science, weather modification, Skyder Alert, DARPA, and the Arctic Methane Emergency Group, or AMEG. You will be amazed at what you find.